Coach, a couple of questions. First, what is the practice schedule for this week, getting ready for the bowl game?
Kind of like a regular week, although we had kind of a quick practice yesterday. We had a heavy practice today. We'll practice again tomorrow. The next day, then we'll fly to Fort Worth.
And secondly, so if you saw Missouri as a third SEC team to have to cancel out from a bowl game because of COVID. When does your team test this week, and are there any concerns that you'll have enough team to take to the bowl game?
We've already tested once this week. We test again tomorrow, and then I think there's a third test. There's 3 or 4 tests every week anyway. So I mean, yeah, we have more tests around here than it's nonstop tests.
Hey, Mike, just in terms of guys going back home over Christmas, how did you guys kind of manage that, and what was your guys' process in terms of, did you guys let guys go home for Christmas, and then how did that kind of work out with your guys?
Yes, we did. We'd had a long season, and, we'd kind of gone through the grinder with limited numbers, so we thought it was important for them to rest up, and everybody had a good Christmas, but they seemed really excited to be back, so.
Next, we'll go to Joel Coleman.
Mike, just kind of what's some of your early impressions of Tulsa and what you feel like you guys will be seeing on Thursday?
Good sound team, well coached. They play together well. That's, I guess, the biggest thing that jumps off the screen is they play together well. They're a little bit older group, so, those guys are used to playing with one another. And so I would say the overall execution is probably the biggest thing. I mean, and they have some individuals that are good. They're big in the secondary, but, the biggest thing I would say is how they execute.
We'll go back to Ben Portnoy.
Mike, I don't think we've actually been able to talk to you since he signed, but you guys got Jack Abraham coming in at quarterback next year. I guess just in terms of that, I know you talked about adding guys in the portal. Just what does he bring in terms of experience, and what's that going to be like to have another older guy in the room come spring?
Well, we're excited. We're excited and looking forward to going to work,
We'll go back to Joel Coleman.
Mike, I know that the Collins, the linebacker for Tulsa, has decided to opt out and prepare for the NFL. As far as you know, are there any of your guys that might elect to go ahead and not play in the bowl game and get ready for the NFL? Or as far as you know, is it all systems go for your guys?
Yeah, it looks like everybody's playing that, played during the year. No additional guys that I'm aware of, or at least not today. So, I mean, everybody's out there bouncing around.
We'll go back to David Murray.
Coach, you've talked all year about having a young team and some young leaders. 3 of your guys were recognized as freshmen All-SEC, and a 4th could have been considered. How much does that affirm what you say about the young skill personnel on this team?
Well, we're excited about it. I mean, we're excited that the young guys got the recognition they did, and there, were some others that I would think would be very close. But of course, Charles Cross, Forbes, and Wally. First team all freshman SEC team, and then also, I'm sure Will was probably pretty close. Maybe he didn't have as many games as the guy that won it, the guy at Missouri, who was a good quarterback too. And I wish I could remember his name. I don't mean any disrespect. I just don't remember. I'm thinking about Tulsa now, but at any rate. We have a pretty good freshman nucleus, and other freshmen that, although they weren't freshmen all SEC, they were good players for us.
Next, we'll go to Ben Portnoy.
Mike, just since the Missouri game, you talked about how close you guys have been to pulling out a win. Obviously, you did so pretty resoundingly in the season finale. How have your guys kind of responded in the last, couple of weeks since then? And what have you kind of seen from your guys? Has it been pretty consistent in terms of energy, or do you feel like maybe something different, or how do you feel like that game might have affected your guys, if at all?
Well, I think we've had pretty good energy. I think we've progressively improved. I think that we're still definitely a work in progress. We're getting better as we speak, but I was proud of our guys for, sticking in there and being committed to improving, and and I think, based on today, that's continued. So, but I think throughout the country, you kind of saw a number of teams sort of give up the ghost and quit probably playing with some of the passion they did earlier in the season, but I didn't feel like that was the case with us.
Next, we go to Steve Robertson.
Coach, you've got a lot more experience with snow than we do in the South. I mean, with the weather being what it may possibly be, is there a way to combat some of that? Is there a catching technique that you teach those guys on how to deal with snow?
You just relax, and these guys are all wearing gloves anyway, so I haven't found, it to be a big deal. You just go out and do it. I mean, the NFL does it all the time, so anytime our guys want to complain about cold weather, I just try to remind them what the weather is in Buffalo and Green Bay and Chicago and Minnesota and New England and the Giants, the Jets, the list goes on. Denver, Kansas City, Seattle, we can go on and on. But you just, you keep them warm with the warmers, and then just relax and catch it.
Next, we'll go to Brian Haydad.
Coach, normally you have, a full month of planning and preparation and practice before a bowl game, or at least close to it. With everything being so condensed, how many practices are you actually going to be able to get in before the bowl game?
We're going to get about 4. It's not like the 20-some practices. We're going to get about 4. It's not the traditional bowl schedule where you can really work your young guys a lot. It's more like just a game week for a road game.
We will throw it back to Steve Robertson.
Yeah, Coach, there's been a lot of shuffling, I guess, with these bowl opponents. But you guys get Tulsa, a lot of run, a lot of off-man coverage and stuff defensively. But what have been your impressions of them, and how do you see them as stacking up as an opponent?
They're. I think they're a good opponent, and I think that they're gritty. Which I think, and I know several of the coaches over there, and those guys are gritty, fully committed football guys. I think their team kind of represents that. You just have an awful lot of guys in the right place at the right time, and I think that's a credit to their whole team because they've worked long and hard, and as a result, put together a good season.
We'll go back to Joel Coleman.
Mike, I assume you'll wait till after the bowl game for these kind of conversations, or you may already have some kind of an idea, but given the fact some of your seniors can return, do you kind of already know who's coming back and who's not for next season? Do you kind of already have in your mind an idea, or are there still some discussions to be had to kind of figure all that out?
I think it's mixed. I think it's mixed, and then also I think in some cases we're not going to know till after the bowl game or maybe even January. I think some of the guys are kind of thinking it through. It seems like, but some are coming back.
We'll go to Tyler Horka.
Mike, I know we've asked it quite a bit, but just having a little bit more time to reflect on it, what's it been like to think about what Will Rogers has done this year? I know you've been coaching for a long time, head coach for almost 20 years, and you've never started a true freshman. So for him to do what he's done in the 5 games he started, what does it mean to you?
Well, I think he's done a really good job. I mean, he's as far along as a true freshman as I've had, and and part of it, I think that I've always thought coaches' kids, there's valuable information that passes across the dinner table along with the potatoes and the roast beef or whatever they're eating. And, guys that grow up with it seem to have kind of a little bit of depth to their knowledge and an understanding of studying film. I think that served him extremely well. And then also, just how to carry himself with a team in the huddle, that type of thing. And I think he's continued to grow in that regard.
We'll go back to Steve Robertson.
Coach, kind of following up on Joel's question there, you said that you knew some guys were coming back. Who were those guys?
Well, I don't feel good about revealing that, especially given the fact some of them might change their mind. But, I think that it's the guys that probably don't have a lot of options, if they were to leave. Some may want to, embark on their career, with as far as their major, that type of thing. But then, some are analyzing what their stock is as far as the NFL goes. And me personally, I think in all cases their stock goes up if they stay another year. And I've always found the NFL kind of looks at it the same way. They're in no hurry to get guys. Their basic position's kind of an obvious one, which is if you're good enough to play in that league, they'll eventually get you anyway. And then, if you're kind of on the bubble, the better you develop your skills and the better player you are coming out of college, the better your chances of, making a team in the NFL. And, by quality guys making the team, it elevates the quality of the NFL. So I've never found the NFL to be in any hurry to swoop these guys up. Occasionally there may be some, great player where somebody's got, first pick in the draft or something. They may want a guy to come out for that reason. But overall, I've never found them to really chase it very aggressively. They're not going to ignore talent and quality guys coming out, but then, time after time after time, a scout or an NFL guy will say he should have stayed another year, and because they're still there one way or the other.
Next, we'll go back to Joel Coleman.
Mike, I know we've heard you say a couple times, as pertaining to the bowl game in particular, football players want to play, and I'm sure, football coaches want to coach. It's been a long 6 months, though, I'm sure, getting tested 3 times a week and all that whole night. Is there any part of you or these guys that are kind of just ready to, I guess, have a break and kind of maybe start over fresh in the spring or next fall and kind of be back to normal, hopefully?
Probably a little of both, but it gets, you get into a rhythm coaching and playing these games, and this year we didn't have as many as you usually do, so I think we're definitely excited to play, no question about it. And then of course the season was set later than it usually is, but no, we're excited to play. We're excited to improve and really looking forward to the game. No question about that. And then, of course, I think we all plan to have a real productive off season and spring. Like I've mentioned before, the distractions of this year. It wasn't, the football itself and playing football. That was the bright spot. That was the best thing that this season offered. All the joyless distractions, interruptions, and people hiding behind science that's constantly contradicting itself. That was the part that created elements that were about as joyless as they could possibly be.
Next, we'll go to Tyler Horka.
Got on here a little late, so I'm sorry if this has already been asked, but how does the roster numbers look? Are you guys, it's been a while now, are you guys about as full strength as you've been in a while?
Yes, we are. More than we've been, at least as of today, more than we've been probably in a month and a half.
And then you also mentioned only having 4 true practices in preparation for Tulsa. I'm just curious about the logistics. What did last week look like? How often were you guys able to get on the field, or are all those starting today and this week?
No, they went home for Christmas. They've been home for the previous 6 days, previous to yesterday.
And then just one last one, kind of following up on that. What was the announcement for the bowl like last Sunday? Were you guys able to be all in the same spot and kind of share that moment together, or just kind of how did all that go down?
They'd heard about it on the internet or the social media before, and then we had the meeting, and and everybody was excited about the opportunity, to play, or at least appeared to me. Maybe somebody in there's not, but he'll get his stack of gear, and hopefully that'll make him happy. But nevertheless, the vast majority very enthusiastic, very excited to stay together and play another game.
And the last question tonight will go to Joel Coleman.
I was curious, with it being a New Year's Eve game, it's a pretty early game. Will you guys kind of get to stick around and I guess enjoy the evening, I guess, after the game, or will you all come straight home? I know bowl games typically allow you to enjoy some things, whether it be bowl gifts or whatever, and be an event. I didn't know if it would be just play the game and come home, or if you guys might get to enjoy things a little bit on that day.
The schedules vary quite a bit. I mean, the majority are flying home right after the game, and or since it's early and all that, or they're flying back after the game, and then they're free until we start school again. I'm staying in Fort Worth after the game, and it varies, depends, where people's families are and stuff like that. I guess this is kind of where they're doing their holiday plans in some cases.